This is Changemakers with Katie Goar, finding the right solutions for the affordable housing community.
Welcome back. We're here again with Marion McFadden, who has shared her journey into disaster recovery work following 9/11 and how that experience shaped her passion for rebuilding resilient communities. Marion, you oversee a broad portfolio at HUD, everything from homeless prevention to affordable housing creation, disaster recovery, and continuum of care programs. Could you give us a dashboard view of HUD's key programs and recent accomplishments? We've seen significant funding allocated to these initiatives. I'd love to hear more about it.
Absolutely. I have fun playing Ed McMahon. If folks remember the big check days of the Publishers Clearinghouse, going out to communities, and we really do the corny but so fun exercise of giving out the cardboard big checks to celebrate communities that have worked so hard in using their grant dollars to do things like end veteran homelessness in their communities, or to really increase their supply of affordable housing and to build disaster resilient housing and provide support. So we've had some great opportunities to support communities through our formula programs year over year. We do a very large competition. I've heard it's the largest competition in the federal government for homelessness resources, which is $3.5 billion this year. So we are working with communities and thousands of grantees all across the country so that they have the supports that they need to really tackle those really difficult challenges. And one of the programs that I'm really excited about is our Pro Housing program, where we did something different. We had competitive funds to allow communities to come forward to identify their own barriers to increasing their housing supply. And we loved getting applications from all over the country. We thought, well, we probably won't just hear from high-cost cities, but we had no idea how many communities would take the time to engage in a process of working with their community to identify their barriers and knock them down. Congress pointed us at working with communities that already were taking some steps to address their challenges to get them to the next place. And we had an excellent range of applications that came in. We were oversubscribed by a factor of 13 to 1. People asked for $13 for every one we had available. We were quick to let Congress know how oversubscribed the program was. So first year, we got $85 million. And then the second year, Congress gave us a raise to $100 million. And there, I think it's the federal government doing our job best of not telling communities what to do, not saying here in Washington, we know the answers, but saying we're going to ask the right questions and use competition to drive innovation, to get communities thinking about what they're doing. We're also using technical assistance to work with all the communities across the country, not just the ones that won the competition, to share what we've learned about what works to increase affordable housing supply. So communities came in talking about things like reducing their parking minimums, changing their zoning requirements, addressing the challenges that climate change has posed for their communities. The answers that they offered to the questions we posed were really different depending on the size of a community, the income of a community, the location. But the commonality was a real need to make better efforts to support affordable housing. After the first round of the competition, we saw how much need there was and how much creativity there was out there. Our acting secretary, Adrian Todman, issued a legacy challenge to the governors and mayors who receive our annual CDBG funding and said, we're going to put aside $200 and some million in affordable housing loan guarantees. So really low interest loans for them to increase their housing supply through doing things like adaptive reuse of non-residential properties, turning them into homes. So we're doing everything we can think of, trying to find every coin in the couch cushion to get communities moving at even greater pace to address their housing challenges.
This program generated a lot of chatter because it really was a good chance to allow the local flexibility, like you mentioned, but it also allowed innovation and problem solving in a real localized setting. exactly what you said. And it really, to have that much innovation with the parameters, right? I mean, it had to accomplish the goals and stuff, but it really set the industry. It really invigorated the industry. I think I could summarize too.
Yeah, I mean, in the old days, we used to joke that at HUD we can find the no in innovation, but we're not making that joke anymore. Because truly we are so fortunate to have all these great ideas in communities and an incredible team. Here, I lead the Office of Community Planning and Development, where we have more than 900 people working in 43 offices across the country. And we've done some reorganizations of the way our teams work to really unlock everyone's ability to be problem solvers in partnership with communities. So that pro-housing program was just a start for how we're working with communities. We also had a really unique opportunity to focus on something that I think was a little bit of a blind spot of the affordable housing industry, which is the support needed for manufactured housing communities. We see in rural areas in particular, about 15 to 17% of the population is living in manufactured housing. And people have not gotten the benefit of rehab and modernization funds the way people who live in an apartment or a stick-built house have. So with what we called the PRICE program, we were able to do a competition that we're reading the applications now for $235 million to support residents living in manufactured housing, including in manufactured housing communities. And, we've seen properties that haven't had upgrades to their water and their sewer systems, their lighting, and communities that just need to replace some really old homes. So we're excited about the opportunity to announce those grants later this year.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because in the past there has been some predisposition about manufactured housing or even tiny homes or ADUs, whatever you're calling it. But with the affordable housing crunch, HUD is at the table promoting and being innovative with the communities who need to have housing look differently, if you would say. So this is a good step forward for overall affordability.
Absolutely. I mean, if folks aren't paying attention to the affordable housing industry around manufactured housing, I encourage you to take a look at the kind of housing that's available today. There is beautiful housing that's being manufactured in factories. And we see multi-story properties now that can get access to HUD mortgage insurance that are manufactured housing. So we're not talking about trailers like the old days of the 70s. So those are some of the homes that need to be replaced that had wheels on them. But now things have a permanent foundation and are good quality homes. So we're excited to be able to support housing, whatever type of housing folks are living in. I will say it's been great for me to have the opportunity to travel around the country and see the innovative things communities are doing with casitas or accessory dwelling units, granny flats, different ways of taking a single family home and increasing the number of homes there, right? So converting a garage into an apartment, putting a separate unit in the backyard, whatever it is, people are finding that that's a great way to make more housing available, whether it's for extended family or for neighbors to be able to establish their own homes given the housing crunch nationwide.
You mentioned rural housing, and there are definitely unique barriers that rural communities face in terms of affordable housing, and HUD often partners with USDA. What else about the rural planning process or the access to federal resources is HUD involved in? I'm specifically thinking of the Rural Prosperity Coordinating Council. Can you talk a little about that?
President Biden has tasked us with working with rural America and meeting the expectations of folks in rural America, not making them learn everything we do. I say I really love working with anyone who's doing affordable housing in rural America because they're doing lots of other things too, right? That's the reality of living in a small community. You have to wear a lot of hats. So through the Rural Prosperity Coordinating Council, and other ways that we're working with USDA and the White House and our federal partners, we're doing as much as we can to cut the red tape, to try to put things in plain language, to provide technical support to communities so that they can better use the annual resources that we're providing and be able to compete for the competitive funds that are out there. It's really inspiring to see how hard folks are working in rural America to increase their affordable housing supply. We talk with communities where there's been no construction for decades, and we know that there's a real backlog of need.
So, Marion, as we close out here, is there any other program or initiative that you're really excited about? We've talked about some really good ones here so far, but is there anything we didn't cover that you'd like to close us out on?
Something that I'm really proud of that we've been working on is increasing the voice of young people in our programs for addressing homelessness. So we have the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program, where we've made multiple rounds of funding for communities that are lifting up the role of young people in addressing how the resources are used. You got to go to the source to know how to solve a real challenge. So working with young people who are experiencing homelessness or who have been housing insecure is the best way to understand how to get to the next round of young people who need support in getting in housing. So through our youth homelessness systems improvement grants and our YHDP grants, we've been doing that. We've been giving young people the power to influence the spend of the money. And those kids certainly haven't disappointed us in showing us what needs to be done and how we can be more flexible.
Excellent point here, because this is not necessarily a problem that has always been on HUD's radar or even community's radar. So this is a new development in homelessness that we're still having to learn how to address. So obviously we need to make sure the programs and initiatives meet the needs, but we need to know what's going on. So I'm glad you bring that up, because that's an evolving dynamic that not many of us have been confronted with.
It's really been a challenge in a lot of communities that they're seeing more and more young people living on the streets. It's not a hidden problem like it was previously. Yeah. It's just heartbreaking to see anyone living on the streets, full stop. It's exciting to be able to work with young people and help them see new pathways for their futures and to provide the support they need in the short term so that they can focus on their education and their employment goals for the future.
Well, Marion, thank you so much for taking the time. We've covered a lot of ground here, a lot of work to be done, but we are glad that you and your 900 team of professionals are making headway in this crucial times. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the work. Appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Changemakers with Katie Goar. To find out more about Katie, go to quadel.com. That's QUADEL.com. This has been a production of Forbes Books Radio.